A few years ago, just before Halloween, I was best friends with this guy named CJ. We were both troublemakers growing up and did a lot of bad shit, like stealing, ding-dong ditch, stuff like that. We lived in the countryside, so there wasn't much to do. The town had a few houses here and there, but was mostly surrounded by farmland. There were a lot of cornfields, but a handful of farmers also grew pumpkin patches. The whole town went to places like that right before Halloween to pick out the nicest pumpkins to carve into jack-o'-lanterns. But, of course, all these wholesome memories didn't mean shit to me and CJ. All we wanted to do was steal the biggest pumpkins we could get our hands on, but it wasn't as easy as it sounded. The shitty thing is that we both knew the guy who owned the farm. He was an old bastard that was always there, always guarding the pumpkin patch like he had nothing better to do with his time. CJ and I planned on coming back late, when the guy was most likely asleep and also with no one around. We decided to go exactly a week before Halloween, when the pumpkin patch would be open for the season. We figured the old man would be way too frail to chase or do anything to us, even if he was still capable of staying up past 8 p.m. Around 1 a.m., I picked CJ up, then we set off. The old man's farm was 30 minutes from Main Street. As we got closer, things felt more serious, like the time for laughter was over until the deed was done. At the farm, all the corn had just been harvested, leaving most of the field surrounding his house completely flat and open, not shrouded in stalks like we'd been thinking. Still, the lights in the house were off, and as long as I didn't make any noise by rolling my truck up his driveway, it seemed like we would be fine. After all, the old man had to be dead asleep. Being careful not to shine any headlights on the house, I parked my truck off the side of the road. Then we started to sneak our way up to the pumpkin patch. With each step, I felt a growing sense of dread. We had only the moonlight to guide us, but even then, out there, I felt so exposed. I constantly kept looking at the house to make sure the guy wasn't watching us, or if any lights turned on inside, but nothing happened. As we walked further and further, the pumpkins came into view. When we finally made it to the pumpkin patch, I felt a bit of relief. Just getting there seemed to prove this whole thing was possible, and now we were surrounded by what could end up being hundreds of dollars worth of pumpkins. All that was left to do was start carrying the goods to my truck. But then, CJ took out his phone and turned on the flashlight. "Dude, what the hell are you doing? Turn that off!" "Relax, he's not gonna see us. We got all the way here, didn't we?" "Yeah, without flashlights. Stop screwing around. How else am I supposed to know the good from the bad ones?" "They're all good, dumbass. Just turn that light off or I'm leaving. Now! Don't you dare leave me here, chicken shit. I'm Shit! Run!" After the first shot, we ran for our lives. We tried to find our way with CJ's flashlight, but it kept leading the shooter right to us. Shot after shot rang out, blowing the pumpkins at our feet to pieces. I thought for sure it was going to be one of our skulls next. But then, out of nowhere, we ran right over a ditch. Both of us tripped and collapsed into the dirt, just a yard or two from where we fell. CJ scrambled to shut off his light. Then we huddled as close to the bottom of the ditch as we could, trying to disappear. We kept an ear out, listening. There were no more shots, but soon there were footsteps. They sounded just like our footsteps, just crunching across the flat, dead corn. They more than likely knew we were close, like they didn't have to wander to find us. Finally, I made a judgment call. If they got any closer, we were both going to end up in jail, or even worse, die. While I still thought we had a window of hope, I got up and grabbed CJ off the ground, and we made a run for it. The shots kept coming as we ran, kicking the dirt up all around us, always just inches away. But we made it out of the field. We jumped into my truck. Then as I frantically turned the key, I looked back for the first time. In the middle of the dark, empty field was the old corn farmer standing right there, holding a hunting rifle while looking dead at us. I didn't look for long. I got the car running. Then I spun around and stepped on it all the way home. And that's the story of when CJ and I successfully got away with attempting to steal the old man's pumpkins while literally dodging death. He gave us all the warning we needed. CJ and I remained friends after that night, but we never tried anything so stupid again. Not after we almost died trying to steal pumpkins. This story was inspired by an incident regarding a pumpkin robbery. Farms View Road stand in New Jersey was robbed of 200 pumpkins, and the thieves were caught in the act by the security cameras. At first, it might not seem like this would be a very profitable crime, but according to the owner of the pumpkin stand, they would have ended up selling for close to $3,000. The owners of the pumpkin stand were so distraught over the loss of the pumpkins that they offered a cash reward to anyone who had information on the suspects. The robbery itself happened in 3 stages. The security camera showed a vehicle approaching the pumpkin farm 3 different times during one night, and a team of individuals jumped out to load up the pumpkins. It was a calculated plan for stealing the pumpkins, and we may never know their motive. Fortunately, if the thieves' intent was to try and shut down the family-owned pumpkin stand, they were unsuccessful. I used to go to my best friend Logan's house often. At the time, it was around fall, just a few days before Halloween. We did our usual thing, like hang out, play video games, surf the internet, eat junk food, and then I would crash at his house. Thankfully, Logan's parents were super chill. They weren't nosy and didn't mind if we stayed up late. But there was one small thing. They went to church every week and would force their overnight guests to attend Mass with them if they were going. Since it was a Saturday, they said we could stay up as late as we wanted to, as long as we made it to church with them the next day on Sunday morning. Unfortunately, after gaming until nearly 4 a.m., me and Logan overslept. We only woke up when Logan's parents got back from church. They were upset, but instead of punishing us, they said we had to walk to the church and attend the evening Mass without them. We agreed and pretty much hung out till it was time to go. That's when me and Logan started making our way there. The church was apparently close by, just a 15-minute walk from the house if we took the shortcut way, which was apparently through a pumpkin patch, cornfield type of area. As we made our way through it, I remember being creeped the hell out as it was getting dark as hell, and I was paranoid that I would accidentally step on a snake or something. Dude, I wish we just went to church this morning. Quit whining. We're almost there. Man, we definitely don't have anything like this in my neighborhood. It's not as nice as it looks. There's spiders and shit everywhere. Shit, I'm not trying to die tonight, dude. Chill out. There should be a scarecrow around that scares shit like that away. Where is it? I don't see any. Just keep walking. We're getting close to it. It protects the plants, pumpkins, it helps scare away birds, spiders, and... hey, even pussies like you. Ugh, screw this! Let's take the long way back or get your parents to drive us. Hey! Logan, stop! Logan, where are you? Don't leave me stranded here, you piece of shit! Logan! Logan? Holy... it's one hell of a Halloween decoration. No kidding. I dare you to touch it. Me? Okay. Ah! Run, dude, run! Ah! Logan! Logan, where are you? Shit! As soon as I realized we'd gotten split up, I tried to find Logan again. The last thing I wanted was for either one of us to get killed because we didn't stick together. I searched for him in that mess of random crops, pumpkins, and 1,000 other things that kept tripping me up. But when I finally found him, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The scarecrow was lying on the ground, and Logan was kneeling over it, sobbing. My first thought was that he'd beaten it to death or whatever. But then why was he crying? He wouldn't answer when I called his name, so I slowly approached him and looked over his shoulder. That's when I saw it. The pumpkin had come off of the scarecrow's head, revealing clear as day that it wasn't filled with straw or made of pillows. There was a person inside. Not just any person, Logan's father. The blood belonged to Logan's dad, who was now dead before us. Not knowing how else to help Logan, I called the cops. They pieced together what had happened. It was revealed earlier that night, on his way to the store, Logan's dad had been robbed by some gang. They took everything he had, but he fought back. However, he was outnumbered and beaten mercilessly, then got strung up like a scarecrow to bleed out. He was just minutes away from succumbing to his injuries when we found him. When he chased us, it was his last desperate attempt to get help, but there was no way we could have known. Ever since that night, Logan and his family have been devastated. I haven't seen my Logan since his father's funeral, which was years ago. I don't know when or if he will ever find a semblance of normalcy again. Whenever I see or hear about a pumpkin patch, I think of how we found his father in one during his final moments. This story was inspired by a disturbing incident regarding two friends who were walking through a Pennsylvania cornfield on their way to church one Sunday morning in 1909. While Maud Hofnagel and her friends were walking, she spotted something lying on the ground, which ended up being a scarecrow that had been knocked over. Maud walked over to set the scarecrow back up, but when she reached it, she screamed and fainted. Her friend ran to her and discovered that the scarecrow was actually the mutilated body of Maud's father, Charles Hofnagel. Allegedly, Charles had been walking home through the cornfield and was attacked. The police were able to determine that there was a fierce struggle between Charles and his attackers. Charles failed to overcome the other men, and his body was hacked to pieces. All of the farmer's money and valuable papers were taken from his pockets. It was clearly a brutal robbery, but the sheer shock value of the story led to it being printed in newspapers across the country. On an evening just days before Halloween, my parents went into town to go shopping. It was just me, my parents, and my little brother. Our parents always dragged us with them, despite not wanting to go. Amidst all the boredom, we looked around for anything interesting. This year, something huge caught our eye. Across the road from the shopping center was this cornfield. Normally, it was locked behind a barbed wired fence, but that day, the gate was open. There was a sign that said there was a maze on the other side, with a pumpkin patch. My brother and I both wanted to try it out, so we begged our parents to go. They didn't give us too much fuss about it, as long as I watched over my brother and met back up where we were told we should be good. As soon as we were loose, we crossed the road and entered the maze. The signs told us that if we could get to the center and find our way back out, we could take whatever we found with us. The rules felt a bit odd. No entry fee, no waiver, no hours of operation. Just a good old-fashioned honor system. So, me and my brother started making our way through it. I led the way, while my brother followed. I began seeing the odd pumpkin growing out of the ground here and there the farther we progressed. It seemed like the increasing density of pumpkins was a sign that we were getting closer to the center. However, I never once considered that there was anybody else in the maze but us. Not until my brother spoke up from behind me.
Psst! Hey, do you hear that?
All I hear is you yapping.
Wait, just stop.
What? What is it?
Shh, just listen. It's people in the maze.
So? It's open to the public. They're probably just trying to beat it like us. Now, let's keep moving before they get too close.
I think they already are.
You're just being paranoid. Come on. I didn't listen to my little brother when he first told me that there were other people near us. I didn't think it mattered. I thought he was just bringing it up to be annoying, but I was ignoring the sound of true concern in his voice. Despite his worrying, I kept pushing us forward. Soon, I started hearing the same footsteps more often, but I was sure it was only because we were getting closer to the center of the maze, where more people were bound to be. However, it wasn't much later before I could no longer dismiss my little brother's fears.
Dude, we have to get out of here.
What? Why? We're so close.
And so are they.
Who?
The people that are following us.
Oh yeah? And what did they look like? Scarecrows?
No, pedophiles.
Really? How does someone look like a pedophile?
Well, turn around. They're right behind us.
Huh? Man, I don't see anyone. Stop making shit up.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. You're trying to scare me, but it won't work. When we get home, I'm telling Mom you ran into Victoria's Secret.
What if I never get home?
Relax, you're gonna be fine.
Oh shit, hey, let go of him!
The man came out of the maze and grabbed my brother right in front of me. I only had a moment to act before it was too late. I jumped in and grabbed my brother's hands and started pulling back. He was kicking like crazy, unable to get free. Suddenly, the man lifted my brother into the air and started to disappear back into the stalks. At the last second, I saw his crotch between my brother's feet, so I kicked it as hard as I could. After a few more seconds of desperate struggling, the pain finally hit him and he let go. My brother fell forward on top of me, nearly taking us both flat to the ground. We scrambled to our feet, then I grabbed his hand and we both started running. All I knew was to run away, back in the direction we started. Screw the maze. We cut through row after row of corn before we finally ended up outside the field. We hopped over the fence, then ran across the road. The entire shopping center stopped and swarmed us as we were both freaked out and screaming for help hysterically. It didn't take long for our parents to find us, and that's when we confessed to running off into the maze. Our parents called the police immediately. The maze got cordoned off until the men were found. Then, after we made the positive ID on them, they were arrested. And, of course, that they weren't able to hurt my brother. Obviously, though, I've never heard the end of this. I get told every single day to watch out for my brother, to not put him in danger, as if I don't already feel guilty enough about what happened. This story was inspired by a creepy pumpkin patch incident regarding two brothers who ended up in a dangerous situation while playing in a corn maze on a California pumpkin farm. The boys had been having fun in the maze and became separated from their family. After a while, the younger brother noticed two suspicious men following them. Before the kids could lose them in the maze, the boys said one of the men grabbed the young brother by the arm and tried to drag him away. To defend his sibling, the eldest boy kicked the man in the crotch. The boys managed to flee from the maze into the pumpkin patch to find their family and call the police.